Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club Podcast, where every month we deep dive into a different aspect of cinema, directors, genres, actors, or franchises. It doesn't matter, because it's always fun at the Film Club. I'm Dean.
I'm Becky.
And new month, new theme. This month we're going through Hollywood epics, and this week we're talking about
Cleopatra.
That's right, 1963's Joseph L. Mankiewicz directed, Elizabeth Taylor starring Cleopatra. But this movie is so big, we needed a guest.
Yes, we do. And she's here. Who is
I'm
she?
here. Yasmin, cousin of the podcast.
You're so excited.
Always so excited.
Yes. So, we brought you in for Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
For reasons I don't know, but this is a lot of movie. And I need to know right off the bat, have you ever heard of this movie before? Have you ever seen this movie before? Did you have any thoughts of this movie before?
I thought that you asked me on this podcast because I'm a classics major.
Also that.
Okay.
Yes. I'm being, mean. It's fine.
I know. I'm used to it.
You woke up so feisty this morning.
I had to watch fucking Cleopatra the other day,
all right? In full beans mode. Just choosing violence.
Today, I chose violence.
You looked in the mirror and you were like, beans.
Rude.
Beans,
rude.
Come out. Yeah. Okay, so have I heard of this movie? Of course I've heard of this movie. I feel like everybody has. Never seen it before. I've actually, watching this film, I realized I don't even know what Liz Taylor films I've seen before. Other than, I think I caught glimpses of what is it?
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
No.
Giant?
No, Velvet.
Blue Velvet? Your favorite movie?
No, not Blue Velvet. Never Blue Velvet.
You love Blue Velvet.
Isn't one of her very first films? I'm completely blanking. Anyway, I really haven't seen any Liz Taylor films. No. I don't think until this. And also, we were originally going to talk about the 1930s Cleopatra.
We were.
Cecil B. DeMille's, which I was really excited to see because I'm a big Claudette Colbert fan.
Same.
And I'd never seen it. But when Becky asked me to watch the Liz Taylor version, I was like, okay, sure. Not knowing that it was 4 hours long.
Yeah.
4 hours and 3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah.
So I was like, how am I going to do this? I have 2 kids. I was like, okay, I'll watch this with my 5-year-old. Big mistake.
Was he not a fan?
No. He was into it. He likes learning about history. So he was like, okay, great. I've taught him a little bit about ancient Rome and Egypt.
Because he is a man and all I think about is the Roman Empire.
We think about the Roman Empire constantly. Yes.
You know what? I think about the Roman Empire a lot. That makes perfect sense.
You have a ton of brothers.
I have a ton of brothers, but also I think about the Greek and Roman world a lot just because it's how can you not? It's
the building blocks of the Western world.
Exactly. The cradle of Western civilization. But anyways.
Also classics nerd.
Classics nerd. Yeah. That'll do it. Yeah, once, I think the first time we see semi-nudity is when Liz Taylor is getting a massage.
On the table, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, we're done. That's it.
The only time in this movie we get to see semi-nude Liz Taylor?
No, she's definitely nude more than that.
I don't think you see tits in this movie.
Okay, well, Dean.
Oh, okay. I see.
I mean, it doesn't have to go that far. There are definitely nude moments. Okay, when she's in the bathtub, when Julius Caesar first sees her,
I like to play on words.
Deliberately is laying on her, whatever.
Seductively.
Yeah, she's laying seductively. She has a semi-transparent garment just draped over her. And then there's also the naked dancers when she comes into Rome. There's plenty of nudity. There's plenty of sexual innuendo here in this film.
Okay.
I
mean, she is the only parent in the room, so.
I suppose, but I'm I didn't see tits in this. You can show this to a 5-year-old, but whatever.
I was watching it and I was like, this is
a little taken aback.
Escandaloso. I am
Look at you.
okay, maybe I'm breaking out Spanish for this. I don't know. I was a bit taken aback because I was like, this is the 60s and this is kind of naughty.
They're they're going to make us sit here for 4 hours. I got to show them something.
Honestly, yeah. because it's even a weird thing because 4 hours 3 minutes or whatever, it's a very talky movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like there was probably a conscious decision of we need something to keep people's attention, and
Liz Taylor
will do it, you know?
Yeah.
Also, it's weird that she doesn't even show up until like 45 minutes in.
Is
Yeah.
it that late?
It is that late.
It's a build-up.
It is so weird to me.
Even though this movie is 4 hours long, it didn't feel like a trek for me. I actually felt like it went quickly. I felt that way. I don't know.
Really.
It felt like a trek for me.
Okay.
I don't think it felt. I don't think it felt like longer than 4 hours. Like, I like long movies. I've seen movies longer than this.
Mm-hmm.
This felt exactly like 4 hours. It did not feel like, oh man, this is a 3 hour movie. It felt like 2. No, this felt like a
Really?
solid 4 hour sandwich. You know, it's taken a while to get through it.
Have you seen this film before?
No.
Okay.
I've seen other epics of this period, like Ben-Hur, Spartacus, Ten Commandments. Because they all came out around the same time, because studios were losing money versus television, and they were like, well, we need to give audiences something TV can't give them, so we'll make our movies bigger and grander and more epic than television could provide, and that'll get them back to the theater. And it worked for Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur, Lawrence of Arabia. All those studios were like, okay, just push our entire production budget for all of our films in on these one big epics, and they all made a shit ton of money. That's what Fox did with Cleopatra, and it turned into a massive shit show.
Yeah.
Insane shit show.
So reading about this movie, because I was like, what was the budget for this film?
Oh, it looks expensive, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially when her boat came out, I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh, when you see it and you're like, that's not a miniature, that's a fucking ship.
Yeah, no, there are real people on that.
Oh god. Or when the procession, when she enters Rome and it's all the dancers and she's on a literal giant sphinx being wheeled in, and I'm like, what?
In a gold gown.
In a golden gown, actual gold, by the way. And I'm like,
Really?
Oh yeah. Liz Taylor, for this movie, became the highest paid actor in history at the time.
$1 million, right? For this film.
$1 million for this film. And by the way, it was just to show up in the movie, and she ended up making $7 million off of this because, she insisted that they use this film processing format called Todd AO or whatever that was created by her ex-husband, and she owned half the royalty rights to it.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
So her $7 million is equivalent to $64.3 million in today's dollars.
That is madness.
Yeah.
Wait, so I also read that the film itself cost like, I think $31 million plus another $5 million of like footage that they didn't end up using.
Because this movie, okay, so it's directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, and he did like All About Eve. He's like good, solid director. He worked with Liz Taylor before, and he got brought in as their second director because their first guy, they were going to shoot up in England in Pinewood Studios, big famous studio. They shot Star Wars there. They shot The Shining there, Batman. But when they go to film, Liz Taylor gets sick because she has to film like a nude, or like probably like that massage nude scene or whatever, up in the cold winters of England.
Gets pneumonia.
Brutal.
Yeah, she gets pneumonia. She passes out on set. They think she's gonna die. She gets a tracheotomy, and then she's like held up for like a month, 2 months to recover.
She was in a short coma, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And she was like in her late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. Well, that's a
young, healthy person. I mean, you would think.
Well, that was a thing about Liz Taylor that was an issue like throughout her career, because she, you know, beautiful woman, looks like the peak of blah blah blah.
A lot of health problems.
Through like her entire life, but you know, they blew, I think it was $5 million over the 3-month period that they were able to get anything up in England, and they had about 10 minutes of usable footage. 10 minutes for 3 months.
Yeah, I remember reading that. And then apparently it cost them like $13 million to actually like distribute the film.
The numbers are really vague because this is back in like prime Hollywood accounting. So I've seen numbers of the production budgets between $40 to $60 million, which I love the inflation calculator for the 60s because it's just a 10 times multiplier. So this is either cost $400 million to make in today's money or $600 million to make in today's money.
Yeah. And then it did fine in the box office, apparently. Like, they made, like, 57 million, I think.
It was the #1 film of 1963. This is one of the only movies to be the most profitable film of its year and still be a flop. Yeah,
because of how much it cost.
It cost so much goddamn money.
And then they made more, like, I think when it was released for, like, I don't know.
It was television. They finally distributed for the television rights.
Because I was like, wait, this VHS is not a thing.
No, we're still a while away.
In 1963,
We're a ways away from VHS.
Yeah.
Well, even the thing about, we put
20
it...
years.
We sold the TV rights, and then we, finally went into the black. No, they sold the TV rights, and because of that, 10 years later, they went into the black. This movie didn't go into the black, didn't, clear its budget until 1973. It took
10 years, yeah.
Yeah, it took a decade for this movie to be like, finally, we're making a profit now.
I mean, let alone,
for God's sakes,
the production dates were from 1958 to 1963.
Yeah, it was a slog. Yeah. By the way, National Velvet is the movie I was thinking of.
Yeah, I found it on
here. Is it a good movie?
Well, I don't know. Like, I literally have only seen scenes here and there as, like, a kid, and that's, like, my only background of, like, Liz Taylor, really. So... that's it.
I guess it is a thing because Liz Taylor's whole career is very short if you actually look at it, because I think she basically semi-retires when she's like 35.
Well, I mean, when you make a budget like you did off of Cleopatra,
yeah,
like, I'm good.
You're set.
It's true. Yeah, because I think after this, her next major film that people remember is like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. She wins an Oscar for that, and then...
You mean the film that killed the Film Odyssey podcast?
Oh, that's true. Me and my brother used to do a podcast, and we got to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. We watched it, and we're like, we can't make heads or tails if this is a good movie, a great movie, or absolute trash. And then that turned into us being like, let's just give it a while and we'll ruminate on it. It's been like 3 years. Or 2 years. But yeah. But she basically retired after that, and she did like other things later, but like a long time later, like after she divorced her like 6th or 7th husband. That also,
yeah.
I also in this movie, she is on her 4th husband, I think.
On her 4th, and throughout the filming of this, she got married, divorced, and married again to the same guy.
Richard Burton, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So wait, I read that she started her affair with him.
She did.
During this film.
She started her affair with him during this film.
Mm-hmm.
And she got married.
Got divorced.
Well, she got divorced from her previous husband, married Richard Burton, I think during the production of this film, and they were married for like 10 years, got divorced, remarried a year later, and then a year later after that got divorced again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She seems to have a tendency
a little
to
bit
do those things.
A little bit of a track
just like
record.
affairs, yeah.
Just
like husband to husband, back to back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She goes through husbands like others people go through Kleenex. It happens.
I can't help that I have, problems with my mucus, okay?
That's fine. But yeah, so...
I use a lot of tissues.
Oh.
I don't know where that came from, but okay.
Like, wait, what?
I felt like shots were being fired at me, so I'm like, let me, get around this.
Sure. But, I guess we should probably tell people what Cleopatra's about.
I'm not lying.
Yeah, you pulled out your bag of Kleenex to show off. We get it. You have Kleenex.
I know you're jealous.
It's a flex. I have Kleenex.
I do.
All right. Well, let me tell everyone what this movie's actually about if they can't tell what Cleopatra's about. Who we're following here. Because I'm be real, like most of this is the Julius Caesar show for the first like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for it.
Yeah. But for those who want to know what Cleopatra's about, it is about the life of the Queen of Egypt from her meeting with Julius Caesar, her rise to power, her loves, her losses, and her actions that bring the Roman Empire to its knees as she manages to manipulate the most powerful men in the world with her beauty and charm, eventually leading to her death and exile and a very anticlimactic ending. I'll just put it like that.
For
yeah,
reasons.
For reasons, because they
had no more money.
the studio ran out of money, and that's why we don't have an epic battle at the end. And I'm like, you are 40 mil in at this point, guys. just go
Commit.
for it. Just commit. But yeah, I'm gonna say it right now. The plot of this movie, not that interesting. It's kind of dull. You're thinking about it.
I don't know. I actually. So, this is gonna take me into casting. Which
Please.
I don't know if you guys want to talk about that.
Yes.
Because I think
we're
it
a
kind
movie
of
podcast.
directly correlates to the plot in a way. But I actually thought that everything to do with Caesar was very interesting, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved...
By the way.
What is it?
Same, by the way. I thought all the Caesar stuff was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I really loved the casting for Caesar. I like Rex Harrison as Caesar. I was just like, yes, I love this. He has that like regality and that humor and like intelligence. Yeah, it was a really great choice. Richard Burton, I thought also like was a great choice for Mark Antony. I think he's a great actor, and he had like the right vibe, if you will.
The right charisma.
Yeah, and the right depth. Like he had a depth of emotion. I know he's like he was a Shakespearean actor, and I could feel that. But I don't know. It wasn't as interesting to me, even though he delivered everything very well. Yeah. I just felt like his story wasn't as interesting. And then Cleopatra. Okay, this might be contentious, but I really did not like the casting for Cleopatra. I don't like Liz Taylor in this role. And
really,
truly, yeah, for a lot of reasons. But I also feel like she was kind of the odds were against her, because I felt like there wasn't a lot of like depth written into her character, and so she could only work with so much. It's funny because like when you see the opening, right? I think the first thing you see is Elizabeth Taylor's name, not Cleopatra.
I believe when they open the credits, it starts with like Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
Richard Burton, Rex Harrison in Cleopatra.
Right.
Big giant 70 millimeter screen. Like that's what you're supposed to see.
Right. And so obviously like Liz Taylor is
she's the main attraction.
Yeah, this is her film. And I understand why, obviously, because of like her persona and who she was at that time. But
what's a good equivalent for Liz Taylor now? Like, because I think it's weird because we don't have like true blue like movie stars on like that level anymore. But like Liz Taylor in her prime was like the most famous woman on the planet, or at least top like 3 most famous women on the planet, right?
Right, like the sweetheart of Hollywood. Like yeah.
She'd be like the equivalent of like the Angelina Jolie Brad Pitt thing. That's kind of like what happened with Liz Taylor Richard Burton on this film. Like, oh my god, I can't believe Brad's cheating on Jennifer with
that level of like star power. Yeah
I
feel like we don't have that anymore in like 2024. Like maybe in the 90s we had that, like those huge stars like Tom Cruise and like Brad Pitt and like Angelina Jolie and
people whose names alone could sell a movie. It's not like exactly. I'm gonna go see a Captain America movie. It's like, no, you're gonna go see a Tom Cruise movie. Like it's that kind of era.
Right.
Like, again, we're gonna get into it, but I find Cleopatra a very interesting parallel to current day Hollywood. But we'll get into that later.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah, but Liz Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah. I just really did not like her in this role. I didn't feel like, maybe it's just me like reflecting on the actual historical figure of Cleopatra, because to me she just would be one of the last people I would imagine, honestly, to play Cleopatra.
I'm curious who else would play Cleopatra, because there was actually like a pretty deep casting list before they were able to get Elizabeth Taylor. I know, like, I think Ava Green was at one point considered. I think Monroe was at one point considered, because this was like 58, so I think Monroe was still like big A-list, like and all that in 58.
Yeah.
But like I know the depth for this was pretty deep. I just don't know who else you would have gotten that would have had that like level of star power at the time.
I mean, for star power, yes, like Liz Taylor is the choice. And I understand why they cast her, because Cleopatra is supposed to be this larger than life character, right? And she was known historically, right? I get that they wanted to capture that attraction, right? Like, this is a beautiful woman.
That's the stereotype of Cleopatra, is the woman's so beautiful she destroyed the Roman Empire.
Right. She's just irresistible to the point of like, right, men falling and completely destroying their lives over her.
Falling on their swords.
And you're over here being like, Liz Taylor, like, solid 7.
No. I'm not contending with her physical attractiveness. I just, maybe this is just me like being a classics like snob, but I'm thinking about like, okay, so Cleopatra they found was actually not that physically beautiful. It was her
She was a solid 7, but she had a 10 out of 10 intelligence and charisma.
Yes. Yeah, so that's it. So her intelligence, her charm, her it was more like the way that she carried herself, and that was what drew these powerful men to her, because she was like, there was a meeting of minds there. Which I think is more interesting than just like what I found in this film was that men are just like inexplicably like, right, like
drawn to her.
And it does come down to her physical beauty. But I think that kind of detracts from who Cleopatra was like historically, and I think that the story would be more interesting, the film would be more interesting if they had cast a woman who was like maybe not as, physically attractive, but you could see very clearly that like she's really brilliant, she's elusive, she's mysterious, right? Like that would. And I also think that would have given her character more depth, because I wasn't really buying it. And it's not Liz Taylor's fault. It's just like the way she was written. I felt like it was very much from like a male perspective, and we were never inside her mind. I felt like we got inside Caesar's mind. Yes. And we got inside like Antony's mind, but we never really got inside Cleopatra's mind.
I think that's the flaw of this movie, is the fact that Cleopatra is a supporting player in her own story, which, there's like the whole thing where it's like the movie should have taken place as this is a political drama, with Cleopatra being, the spider lady, and she's pulling all the strings, because that's kind of I don't know if that's the reality. I'm not a history person, but that's like the story, right? Where she was this very intelligent woman, very beautiful, and she used her beauty, her mind to manipulate these men, and she's like, could almost be cast as like the hyper intelligent villain of the piece, manipulating
like a succubus.
Yeah, sure. If you wanted to go in that route, you can do that. But in this, it's almost like, man, Julius Caesar was this great Roman emperor who took a nice shine to this cute girl in Egypt, and then he died, and then she's like, well, I guess I'll move on to the next guy, and got Mark Antony. And then it kind of is like things just happen around Liz Taylor's Cleopatra, and it doesn't feel like she's really moving the numbers, right? Because I never got the sense that her actions directly correlated to any real effect of what was going on. Like, I feel like Caesar was going to get assassinated regardless, because he wanted to be dictator. Cleopatra didn't have any real role with that. Her having a kid with Caesar, the Senate was like, oh, that's kind of neat. So we're killing him on Monday, right? we're cool with that? Awesome. And with Mark Antony's, like, I guess there's more manipulation there with Mark Antony, but even then I feel like Mark Antony was still going to be like, I hate Octavius, so I'm going to try and conquer it. And Cleopatra's like, you should do that. And, like, waves her little magic wand or something. I don't know. But it feels like she's a supporting player in everyone else's story.
Considering the movie was originally 6 hours long.
That might explain it.
It was supposed to be cut into 2 pieces. But even Elizabeth Taylor said that once they, reduced it down to the movie that we got, she said they had cut the heart out, the essence, the motivations, the very core, and tacked on all these battle scenes. It should have been about 3 large people, but it lacked reality and passion. I found it vulgar.
I'm going to
That's
respond.
really interesting.
I'm going to respond to that with, what large battle scenes? There's
there's the Battle of Actium at the end.
Yeah.
I think
there's the ship battle.
That's the Battle of Actium, and then the last one, which never happens, when his troops abandon him.
And I'm like, what large battle is she talking about?
Because maybe when Caesar, gets got.
The prison stabbing, right?
Yeah.
It's just interesting that this is, a grand historical epic, and I I feel like I'm not getting my grand historical epic moments, you know? Like, the procession is huge, right?
Yeah.
I'll look at that and say, okay, so that's what fucking real money looks like on the screen. But
well,
where's the battles? Where's the chutzpah?
That moment when Antony rides towards Octavian and his forces, and you're seeing him like just alone on the you know, landscape, the desert landscape. I felt that was like pretty epic. I mean, you felt like the desolation.
And he's fighting against them, and you know they've been told, don't fight against him, don't hurt him, don't kill him.
He's like, I want my warrior's death.
You feel his complete humiliation. But I don't know what she's referring to, but I do agree with her that, and I agree with you, Dean, that like her character is just not, her motivations, her fears, her desires, that they're not fully fleshed out, and she's just like a tangent to, you know, because I don't know, there are very like clear moments, like when Caesar is looking at the statue that he's commissioned of Cleopatra shortly before he dies, and he's like, why do the eyes they don't have life in them, or there's like no soul in the eyes? This is like I felt like a poignant moment where you're getting a glimpse into his mind and his sort of fears about like his legacy and like achieving greatness and like what will remain after his death, right?
And this is Julius fucking Caesar saying this. And it's like the thing where he's like, I think the first moment of like tenderness between Cleopatra and Julius Caesar is when she's like, I saw you crying at Alexander's grave. Why was that? Julius Caesar is crying at the grave of Alexander because he idolized Alexander the Great, and he's like, he was a great conqueror, and he
feels like he'll never measure up to him.
And it's Julius fucking Caesar, right? We literally have a month named after the man.
It's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought that those were really the best parts of the film, when we're seeing like, we're seeing Caesar and Antony expressing that, like, you know, they feel like they're never going to measure up. And like you're saying, these are, I mean, historical figures that we talk about, you know, hundreds, thousands of years later.
Yeah.
But there was such a,
and we're focusing on their shared girlfriend.
Their shared girlfriend, yes. But I mean, she never had a moment like that. She has like brief little moments where she's like talking vaguely about the dream of Alexander the Great of like uniting, you know, the Roman Empire and Egypt and all of these territories. But yeah, I just felt like there was a great disservice done to her character. And also, like, just quickly going back to casting, you were saying, like, yeah, Caesar just sees this cute girl and is, like, you know, attracted to her. And that's how I feel about Liz Taylor. She is beautiful, but she has to me, she has, like, a cuteness about her. She has very, like, fair features. And when I imagine an actress in this role, I feel like she should be, like, darker. I don't know. I'm imagining
striking.
Yeah, striking, not necessarily conventionally beautiful, but like having a very interesting, strange aspect to her.
It's kind of like a thing where I've heard people say that, where like, who's the most beautiful person you can think of? And I heard somebody say, I think it's Grace Jones. She was like, she dated Dolph Lundgren or whatever. And if you look her up, she has a very like striking
masculine
face.
Almost.
Yeah, and people are like,
she's androgynous, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a thing where really, and it's like, and when people explain it, it's like, you can't look at her and think that looks like anyone else. It's almost like that's a very singular looking individual, and it's like beautiful that exists, and it's a fascinating thing. And I'm thinking, is that something more that we should have, is somebody who's just so like, I don't know why you're beautiful, but you're so just visually striking, no one else like you could exist, kind of thing.
I think that could definitely work. I think also, like, I don't know. I mean, you see, like, if you've ever seen the coins of Cleopatra, the ancient coins, they have her face in profile, and she actually has a very harsh profile. Like, she has this, like, almost like a hook nose and like
the big hawk nose.
Yeah, and like a strong chin. So, like I'm saying, I don't think she was conventionally attractive at any point, like in the ancient world or now, right? But
talking shit on Cleo, god damn.
No, but I think that if you were to cast her for this movie, yes, she would have to have some kind of physical attractiveness, like you're saying, like maybe otherworldly, maybe like a very singular beauty. But I think that she should feel more so than anything magnetic because of her personality, the way she walks, the way she moves her hands, the way she moves her face, right? That there's you can see the intelligence there. You can see like the cunningness, you know?
It's the thing where it's when you look at her, it should be a thing where, well, she's really good looking, but god damn it, her eyes pop because there's so much behind them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With Liz Taylor, I feel like, and this is why to me the casting affects the plot, is that she felt like a little girl who was almost like a victim in this story.
Which is basically how the first half of the movie ends, is she's ran out of Rome, I believe, after Caesar's death, and she's like, oh, Caesarion, her kid, right? Her son. Oh, we'll leave and you shall come back as the emperor and blah, blah, blah. And it's like a very like downturn moment of, wow, okay, so Cleopatra just had no real agency here. She's being ran out. And then when we pick up the second half, she's just in Egypt waiting. Just waiting for somebody to try for the throne that she can then jump onto that bandwagon. It feels like she's not moving her own plot along, which is telling, because I think you mentioned that Mankiewicz wanted this to be 2 3-hour movies.
Yeah.
The original titles for them, I think, were like...
I don't know if I have them.
I know, because the first one was supposed to be Cleopatra and Caesar, and then the second was supposed to be Cleopatra Mark Antony. Okay. That was supposed to be the undertitles for them. They were supposed to be about her 2 relationships to these men. And I'm like, so she is really the secondary character in all the story of this film, which I find to be odd that you would still push this as Cleopatra, right?
It was weird.
Because I think you can make this a straight like Julius Caesar film if you wanted to.
Or something that doesn't even revolve around these characters, like maybe a more general title about this period of history. I don't know.
You just call it The Fall of Rome, you know?
History of the World Part 1.
Yeah, or whatever, yeah. Or like...
I think the reference went over her head.
It did. I'm thinking about actual historical. I'm like, well, this is technically not the fall. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, this is more the end of the Hellenic period. This is the end of the Hellenistic period.
You would be an awful marketing exec.
I'm not suggesting that I should do it, but I'm just thinking of history.
Yeah. It's just like a fascinating movie in how it's just constructed, because I know this movie was like being written as it was being filmed.
Yeah.
Like that's why they got Mankiewicz on it, because he was also a screenwriter. And he said he's like, I did 18-hour days every day for like 2 years trying to get this made, because I had to write the script every single day all the way up to filming, because he was making a 6-hour movie. He wasn't making 4, and then they cut 2 hours out of it to make it a 4-hour movie. And I'm like, that must have been a living hell for him to make this. And then he's dealing with the fact that the studio's breathing it out his neck because, hey, Liz and Burton are having an affair and it's gonna cut into our profit margin because no one wants them to like, oh, they're supposed to be these wholesome stars and she's cheating on him, and it's this whole background bullshit that's just dragging the movie down. It's fascinating. I feel the biggest impact Cleopatra as a film has on Hollywood history is a footnote that this almost killed the studio that made it, and this is the first movie that Liz Taylor and Richard Burton worked on together, and they made like 10 movies after this.
Yeah.
And I feel that's also the most expensive film made up until that point.
Ridiculously expensive movie. But I'm like, and that's the lasting legacy of this movie. The content of the movie is I
don't dislike it, personally.
Really?
Yeah, I did not dislike it. I have to say I enjoyed watching it. But now that you're mentioning that the film was being written while it was being shot.
You can kind of feel it?
I feel it, yeah, because there was so, like, I think this is kind of what we're all drawing on, is that there was more potential here that wasn't tapped. Like, for instance, even the contrast between her romance with Julius Caesar and her romance with Mark Antony, that could have been explored in a much more interesting way. I mean, there was like a hint towards it, but I felt like the first relationship was more for political advantage. Although it came across that they had affection for one another and that she had deep respect for him. But the relationship with Mark Antony was such an ill-fated... it was
toxic.
Toxic, yeah. Just like, you know... I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to make a Lady Gaga reference.
Was it a bad romance?
It was a bad romance. And you felt that because it was so bad for both of them, particularly for Mark Antony, that it was like driving him to his demise.
It really felt like Mark Antony was Caesar didn't feel like a pawn in Cleopatra's game. It felt like he had his motivations and Cleopatra saw that and just played into them.
Yes.
Mark Antony, he does feel like an actual pawn that ended in him doing a lot of dumb decisions to impress her.
Yes.
And that,
and he's totally powerless at her feet. I mean,
he's just dead behind the eyes.
Oh,
towards the end,
by the end, he is
he
gone.
wants to die. Yeah, I mean, I thought they did that well. They portrayed like the atmosphere of like shame and honor and humiliation that was so vital to the classical world, right? Like he didn't want to continue living after his humiliation at the Battle of Actium. I mean, it was perfect. He leaned into that Shakespearean like role.
Oh yeah, that was strong.
Yeah, you really felt it. But the other thing too is like they used oracles, right? The woman like, you know, Cleopatra goes to her, asks her like, what will the future be, right? And she's prophesying. That could have been so much more interesting in regards to like the fate of these two men. I don't know, because I was putting together pieces by the end and I was like, oh, is Cleopatra like this cursed woman? You know, that like the moment that these men, she's so beautiful, she's so alluring, and then the moment that they engage with her, that's, you know, she's fatal for them.
Yeah. She's the Venus flytrap or whatever. It looks
the femme fatale, literally.
Yeah, it looks so beautiful. Oh, it's so alluring. As soon as you touch it, it'll kill you. That would have been interesting if like that was how the movie opened. Like Caesar is like, I'm going to be going off to Egypt or Alexandria to blah, 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 blah. And I want the oracle to tell me what I should foresee. And it's like, you will see a beauty beyond the ages and you must never touch her. If you do, your empire will crumble before you.
Yes.
And then you have a close-up on Caesar and he's like, bet.
Yeah. He's
exactly.
He's like, I have never seen a woman I can't handle. Like, that would have been an interesting, like, mythical.
By the way, that is so Shakespearean. That is so, like, Macbeth. So, like, you know, that would have been really interesting. But, yeah, again, piecing together the film day by day, I don't know if they had that, like, that foresight, you know?
The movie left me wanting to know more about Cleopatra.
Yeah.
I had to, like, go off and, like, watch documentaries about her to be, you know, like, who is this woman? And it was just driving me crazy. It's like, why couldn't we get this in the movie? And it's like, oh, it's a movie from, you know, the late 50s, early 60s.
Right.
You know, she's there to be beautiful, not to expand on who she really was.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. It just feels so much from the male gaze, the male perspective. Even if they, like, okay, I feel like I'm talking so much about casting, but like even if they wanted to cast an extremely beautiful woman, like I would have thought like Ava Gardner or something would have been amazing because she has that like that depth, you know, like she's gorgeous, but she's
Grace
also
Kelly.
Grace Kelly, I think, was on the list to be in this.
She would have been a phenomenal Cleopatra.
Well, they also wanted Hitchcock to make this movie.
Really?
I would have been there.
That was a real thing. They because again, there was like...
That would have been a completely different movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a thing where they had a lot of directors they wanted in on this after the first one fell out. And they were like, hey, Hitch, you're a studio man, you want to come in? And he was like, absolutely not.
Could we have gotten a Hitchcock cameo as him of one of the Romans?
Oh,
he would have been a great Roman.
He would have been great. Get him
Where
the toga going on.
There we go. Just walking by in the background.
No, he would have been one of the dancers in the procession.
Okay, also, like, other casting. I loved like just the supporting actors in this film. Aside from Cleopatra's tutor was so strange to me.
Yeah,
yeah. Painful to watch. Her brother who played Ptolemy, also a bad actor, but so well cast. Like you just felt like, oh my gosh, he's such a spoiled little brat.
Yeah.
But I loved Roddy McDowell
Yes.
as Octavian.
Oh,
Just,
wait, a Roddy McDowell performance that's perfect for the film? Oh,
unheard of.
Unheard of.
No, it just fantastic. Like that really added. I mean, that came for me as like unexpected because I was like, oh, here's Octavian, and then like, wait, this is amazing. You know,
Yeah.
like
It annoys me to no end because he lost out on an Oscar because of they fucked up the paperwork putting it in.
Yep.
oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Because what is they put him in for best lead and he's a
He's
supporting.
a actor.
Yeah.
But he was so.
But
just
the studio's like, but you
perfect.
did like an Oscar-worthy performance. We love you. And it's like, bruh, you took the
Thanks.
statue away from me. And
Thanks so much.
He would have taken it too.
Oh, this was like such a weak Oscar year. It's insane. So I know you don't like the Oscars, but the movie that won the Oscar this year is Tom Jones. It's a period comedy thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that the one Best Picture.
Mhm.
In every other category is fucking dead in the water. Absolutely.
I saw that they won for like cinematography, costume for this film, but there were no acting awards.
It
given.
was nominated for like 10 Oscars and it won 2.
Did
I
it,
mean,
or
you'll-
did it? I thought it won 4,
I
but it
don't-
was like
it was like technical ones because it was
Technical,
like
yeah.
production design, costume. It might have won cinematography, might have won makeup. Those might have been the only ones.
Mhm.
I mean, when your budget's almost $200,000 for costuming, it better win the Oscar.
the thing about the costuming too was like some of it was fabulous, like the gold dress that she wears,
And 24 karat gold.
like incredible,
Mhm.
insane. But then they had her in other pieces that were so anachronistic, like obviously just I don't know. I was just
you
like,
threw this together in the prop warehouse because you needed something for the day.
yeah, I was just like she would never have worn that. It was particularly with her costumes. Like the other people were fine, but
Well, most because the other like the male actors are either wearing Roman Legion
Mhm.
uniforms or a toga.
mhm.
She has like what 63 costume changes in this movie.
65. That
Oh
was
my
the record at
gosh.
the time. But Julie Andrews took it away from her in 68 when she was in Star. I guess
don't
that was
know
her
it.
first like lead role.
Yeah.
And she changed her costume 125 times in the film.
Go from 65 to 125.
Yep.
Just putting it out
Smoking
there.
her.
And
Damn.
no one has beaten her
That's
since.
Challenge accepted.
Yasmin's like, I'm gonna make a movie called The Changing Room, and I'm just gonna do that. But it's
4 hours of different costumes.
Different outfits. Yeah.
but it is a thing where it's like, I can see what you're talking about because the movie looks like huge, but there are a thing where I'm like, why is every scene she's in, she's wearing a different costume and it's a different makeup job.
Mhm.
Every scene she is in, there's like a whole new like probably 4-hour makeup job on her and a brand new costume that's never going to be seen in the movie again. I'm like, were they just actively trying to piss away money?
No, I like it actually. I think it's important to her character.
Mhm.
Like you need to feel like this woman is a queen. This woman is, admired and adored by men. But I just didn't like some of the costumes were fine, but like historically I just didn't like these deep
Yeah.
V cut. Like obviously they're trying to show off her breasts. Okay.
No.
But
No.
yeah, but
Do men like that?
do men like breasts? I don't know.
I've heard stories.
I thought it was just all about the Roman Empire.
Yeah, it's just all about,
Well, I mean,
Classical history.
the V-necks, the historical Roman V-neck.
yeah, the
obviously.
V-neck. Yeah, that wasn't. They could have done a deep. This is me getting stupidly technical, but whatever. They could have done like a deep neckline, but it wouldn't have been like that.
Mm.
I mean, they could have looked at like Egyptian and
Yeah.
yeah, like Greek. I don't know if there were deep necklines with Greek fashion for women, but definitely for Egyptian. Even ones going to the navel, but they
Yeah.
didn't do that. I don't know. Maybe it would have been too much.
It's still like 63, so it probably is like. It's the other thing where it's like. In 1963 is this like it's the dying age of the old Hollywood system. Like this is considered the movie that killed old Hollywood, and it's one of those things where, it's Cleopatra. I think you're kind of expecting it to be a little racy, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's
I think it is a little
Honey,
racy.
it's like
Wait.
racy like a dirt like a
Wait.
Pinewood Derby. Okay.
My mom told me that she remembered seeing this film when it came out in a drive-through or drive-in. with grandma and grandpa.
Oh,
And
no.
she said that because of those moments where those like suggestive moments, like they kept having to send the kids away to get things like go get some popcorn, go get some drinks, go, you know, whatever, like go over to that stand, you know. And my mom was just laughing. I don't know how. She must have been 8 at the time, but she was like, I don't know. I just saw Liz Taylor and I thought she was just like kind of a fat old lady.
Oh no.
I'm like,
Damn.
Mom. I mean, whatever. What I'm trying to say is different perspectives here.
Yeah.
Kids are
Yeah.
like, whatever, and the adults at the time were like, yeah, this is racy.
Grandma's clutching her pearls.
Well, you know, Grandma, she was not. Grandma wasn't a Puritan by
No,
any means.
no.
Okay, but she did. I mean, I too, when I was trying to watch this with my son, I was like, yeah, this is a little too suggestive.
I'm showing your kids RoboCop next
Do
time I
not.
show up. Oh,
Do not.
Terminator.
Oh, you don't
Do
want
not.
them to see their new favorite movie? I see how it is.
No.
Obviously Terminator.
You will
with
be
naked
banned.
Schwarzenegger.
Banned from my house. You know what? Nudity is one thing, but like suggestiveness is another. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. It's the implication that's
implication,
more
yeah.
like. But that's the
it's
thing
a
where
little
it's
too much.
Yeah, but that's the thing where like most kids actually just
Mhm.
right. Liz Taylor's just a fat old lady, like right over her head.
I don't know. I mean, that moment when Caesar comes in, she knows Caesar's coming into like her chambers,
Mhm.
and she's like, she deliberately gets into like a see-through. What would you call that? It's like a.
It's a slip.
Like a
I don't
slip,
know.
yeah.
It's like a see-through like beach dress or whatever, or slip. She's like laying there, you know, with like, you're almost like, girl, this is a lot. I don't know. I felt like it was a lot.
Caesar's like, honey, put your tits away. I'm here on business. All right.
I feel like it's one of, our women's moves from way back, even back in the Alexandria days, Oh,
yeah,
hello.
I mean, it's an age-old approach. Yeah,
yeah.
it's using your feminine wiles. But
Mhm.
I was like, one move, and that thing is gonna be revealing parts that should not be seen by me.
There's a lot of double-sided tape that went into ancient Rome. Okay.
Yeah,
And if things,
absolutely.
hit the fan, then she would need it to, just bust open. What were you saying, Caesar? I don't remember.
Stop.
Oh God.
I am blushing.
I see. But it is just the thing where it's like, okay, 63 might be a little racy, but think about it like this. In 4 years, we're going to get Bonnie and Clyde Easy Rider,
Mhm.
and that's a whole level of like the production, like the MPAA production code or whatever just crumbles, and it's like, oh, we can do like just straight up violence and whatever in mainstream Hollywood movies.
My mom said that this was one of the films that sort of opened that can of worms.
I mean,
Or, like, it was the beginning.
well, what it was the beginning of the end. Like basically this
Mhm.
comes out, makes a bunch of money but still doesn't succeed, almost kills Fox. The only reason Fox is able to like stay afloat is because of The Sound of Music became a surprise hit. Like they thought Sound of Music was going to be like, okay, we're going to put it out, it's going to make a little over its budget back and we'll be fine, and it made like $100 million against like a $10 million budget. I think
Yeah.
it cost a fourth of this, and that one was what kept it afloat, right? But The Sound of Music comes out, Vietnam's happening, and everyone's like, why on God's green earth are we watching Julie Andrews singing in the Swiss Alps when we have awful things going on in the world?
We need
A reprieve, right?
a reprieve. We need,
Yes, but
Distraction.
girls with satin sashes and
Yeah.
kitten whiskers.
Yes, but when it plays nonstop
trying
in
to
every
give us
theaters
up.
for 2
Yes.
years. Oh, so that's the thing. Back in like, I think it was 64, 5, whatever, you could go to any theater in America and see The Sound of Music every week for 2 years. It never went out of
Slaps.
Slaps, big fan.
It does.
But it's one of
To
those.
this day, the Hollywood Bowl has like Sound of Music sing-alongs. Okay, like
I told
slaps.
you he didn't believe me.
I
Oh no,
suppose.
it's a thing.
But
People
Like,
dress up.
But it's
Yeah.
that thing where the 60s was cultural revolution, Vietnam, Kennedy, all that stuff was happening. So Hollywood eventually was just like, they just could not get the movie audience back in because they all went to television. No one wanted to go see these big Hollywood squeaky clean epics anymore until they were like, okay, what movies are making money? Oh, those really cheap Roger Corman movies that we won't put money into because they're cheap and they're sleazy, but they have fast cars, fast women, and cool action shit. All right, cool. Then they come out with Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde has fast cars, fast women, and a lot of action shit. And that movie makes $1 bajillion.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how Hollywood like transitions into new Hollywood and magic history lesson. But Cleopatra is basically why the old system, they were like, yeah, we're
the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end. It's like that. The movie almost killed Fox Studios. Like straight up, like just sunk the whole fucking studio.
Would I be incorrect? I understood that also the 1930s Cleopatra, that scene with like Claudette Colbert getting out of the bath was like hugely scandalous.
Oh yeah.
And that it created a lot of censorship in film. Like it was the film that started that. That's why I thought that maybe there was a nod there. Like
there is
that this film is, you know,
yeah,
associated with that.
Well, it's the thing where it's like there's the code comes around in like 30 something. We had sound movies before the code, but basically people are like, oh my god, like movies are so racy and like gross now and blah blah blah. Oh, pre-code was wild. Used to see like a bunch. I think in the silent version of Ben-Hur or Cleopatra or whatever, there's like a scene where Caesar or somebody enters into Rome, and there's just a line of, I think, like 50 just naked teenage girls just throwing roses. That is in a movie Hollywood produced and showed. And there was shit like that. There was like a whole thing where I think like Mae West was a big problem for pre-code Hollywood because she was like, how many dick and sex jokes can I fit into a 90-minute movie? All of them? I got you. It was like a thing where they were all like
raunchy, for the top obscenity.
Obscenity, raunchy comedies, horror movies could be like really over the top. That's why a lot of them got censored, you know, for later releases. But yeah, so all that shit happened. In the Cleopatra one where it's like Claudette Colbert's bare ass on a giant screen in the 30s. Okay, now we're gonna dial it back, and that's why we got the code, because there was going to be either government censorship or Hollywood had to censor themselves. Movie history lesson truncated. Thank you for coming to the film club.
And we're done.
But yeah, it is just a thing where this movie is just fascinating in that respect. Of it is the beginning of the end for like old Hollywood. But yeah, it also has parallels now. You know, all the movies coming out now where, what is it? I think Top Gun Maverick cost like $200 million, and it's like, if we don't make $1 billion off of this, we're done. That was literally what happened with Batman versus Superman.
Oh Lord.
They straight up were like, we need to make $1 billion from this movie or we're not going to clear it. It's interesting parallels.
Set your sights high.
Set your sights high, you know? Every movie has to make $1 billion or it'll sink Disney.
I should have more of that abundance mindset in my life. Just like, I'm going for it. I'm risking it all.
Exactly.
You know, no fear.
None at all.
Yeah, your thoughts on Cleopatra?
I think we need more Cleopatra.
Just not enough Cleopatra?
Not enough Cleopatra.
4 hours is not enough.
Well, I mean, it's 4 hours, but we don't get her for the entire 4 hours. She just kind of vanishes. She reappears, and it's like, okay, is it the Mark Antony Julius Caesar movie? Because I'd still watch it.
Feels like that.
Yeah.
Would you have preferred if this was just a straight Julius Caesar movie or Mark Antony movie?
With all the action they saw, it would have been epic.
It would have been cool. I still think Cleopatra deserves her own.
Exactly.
Like a proper exploration.
If you were going to make your own Cleopatra now, who would you cast as Cleopatra?
Gal Gadot.
Wasn't she cast for a Cleopatra film recently?
I think so. I don't know if it's in production or if they scrapped it.
It happens a lot where they'll scrap movies like that.
They'll put it out there and people get excited and they're like, oh no, we're going to shelve it.
Okay. I mean, that is a solid choice. She definitely looks the part. I know she's Israeli, but like she has that Greek, like that Mediterranean look. She's intelligent. I don't know. Okay. I was talking with my mom about this because I was like, Liz Taylor just isn't my choice. And she had a really good suggestion, which was Jean Moreau.
Ooh.
But, you know, she's in Jules et Jim, the French film. She's actually a blonde, I think, but she has that I don't know. She has that quality, that like dark aspect,
Mhm.
intelligent, mysterious aspect that I really like, and regal too. I don't see Liz Taylor doesn't come across to me as regal.
She's literally a dame.
She is a dame.
I know, but
Not
she
like a
doesn't
dame,
have-
dame, but
yeah.
a dame.
yeah, a lady.
Like Dame Duty
Um,
Gench.
I know, but
Did you say-
I had a stroke midway through that. Let me have this.
That sounds like, did he just say dame?
it's fine. It's fine.
I had a
It's fine.
stroke. It's fine.
It happens. No, I know, but she doesn't have that like sophistication, that regality, that intelligence. I don't know.
Is there something about the look that you don't like
She's
of Liz
just-
Taylor?
She just comes across to me so much as like, so I know that she was at her time a screen siren. Okay.
Mhm.
But to me, when I look at her, I just see she has such a light like aspect to her. She looks innocent. She looks girlish in a way. I just don't see her in this role. I see somebody, I don't know, even like Sophia Loren would have been better in this role.
I
Yeah.
believe she was also considered for the role.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I thought she
Um,
looked good. I asked Cleopatra. Her voice was throwing me.
Her voice is so, see, that's the thing. I actually like, I was giggling at those moments where she's like really putting her foot down and she's like giving these men like hell. Like when Mark Antony comes in after he's married Octavia and she's like, you will kneel. Like I was like, that is fantastic.
She
But,
does not have the assertive voice
No,
you would think.
she doesn't have that power. She doesn't have that authority. You're like absolutely right about her voice. It's just so girlish. It's
Mhm.
so,
She doesn't have the fucking gravitas.
no,
for
no,
it.
she doesn't.
You know, I don't know who you. A movie this big, this expensive, I don't know anyone you could have cast at the time that could have had that level of like, fuck you gravitas
Mhm.
and like fit the role. It almost feels like Liz Taylor, like kind of like, fuck it, I'll take the money and run on this one. Like, I don't know, like. I almost feel like she kind of like you can't blame her for this, right? Like there were so many like
Yeah.
fingers in this that I don't think you can really blame her for this not being a great role for her, because
No.
it seems like
Oh,
she
I don't
made this
blame
and
her at
was
all.
like, because I think she made this and was even like, all right, fuck this movie, I'm fucking done.
Yeah.
No, I understand like why she was cast. And I think that she did the best she could, like I said, with what she had. But it just wasn't, to me, it's an ill fit.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, going back to plot, there was something I noticed.
Your favorite
part. When I watched the film through, and then I actually went back and just watched the first like 20 minutes.
Mhm.
And it was only then that I realized that the film was cyclical. That so in the beginning, we see Caesar, who is triumphant after defeating Pompey, you know, in this like civil war,
Mhm.
and Pompey has fled for you know, he has sanctuary in Egypt, right? They end up actually beheading him.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I realized like, oh, this has come like full circle. It's the same with Antony, like fleeing from Octavian,
Mhm.
and then it ending up dead. But again, like I think that if they had chosen someone else for this role, she would have fit that you know, whatever, I don't know what we want to call it, but like femme fatale role better, and the whole like arc and the whole plot of the story would have been deeper. Right? Like you said, like, oh, you mustn't, there's this, you know, prophecy
Mhm.
that, you know, you mustn't touch this woman and she's going to lead to your demise or whatever.
I'm wondering, okay, so you don't like Liz Taylor in the role. Do you think she is a good actress? Or do you think it's just straight up like okay, because I'm actually interested.
Or would you need to watch more of her movies?
I would definitely have to. Yeah, I can't make a conclusive statement about
Her in
because
this.
personally I didn't like her acting in this
Mm-hmm.
role. But then I was like, well, how much does she really have to work with? Again,
Mhm.
like I don't feel like she fits the role. I don't like the way they wrote her
Mhm.
role. So yeah, I mean, no, I didn't love her acting, but
It also doesn't help that you have Rex Harrison and Richard Burton who are like, we are classically trained Shakespearean actors.
Mhm.
I've played Caesar in Shakespearean plays before, so I'm just kind of like rolling in on this.
Mhm.
That doesn't help her cause when these guys
No.
are like, I guess I can make anything sound like it has gravity, right?
right, how do you stand up next to that? I mean, those moments where she's talking to Caesar about like their plans and how she's trying to push him to like claim his title as king of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with her voice, I was like, you're like a little girl in the war room, you know? Like, it was just, I don't know. It was jarring for me, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm trying to come up with like positives for the movie, honestly. But again, my thing is like,
It's beautifully shot.
It's beautiful. My biggest gripe is that it's just dull. For 4 hours, I did not really invest in the Cleopatra story. I was more interested in everyone around her. It's my problem with Titanic. Like,
oh gosh, Titanic is so boring.
Yeah, the Jack and Rose like love thing that everyone's like, oh, it's a beautiful romance. I'm like, that is the most boring part of that movie. Yeah. I'm more interested in everyone else in that film than our protagonist.
Same.
And that's Cleopatra for me. I'm more interested in everyone else than the protagonist was supposed to follow, which is like not great when it's called Cleopatra.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I didn't feel like this movie was long for me. I don't know if it's because the whole time I was watching it, I was like waiting for things to happen. I was like, okay, so when is Caesar going to get assassinated? Okay, when is Antony coming in? Like, so maybe that's what was driving it for me, just knowing like
the history.
Yeah, the history, exactly. What is her suicide going to look like? You know,
very extravagant.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I loved the ending scene personally. I know you guys were like mentioning that it felt anticlimactic. But I kind of liked I felt like the quietness of it. And I can't remember the line that her maid servant says, like at the end. She says like she died well or something. I don't know. But I kind of
something like that. Yeah. She was as beautiful in death as she was in life, or something of that
and
nature.
And then she collapses.
Because they also killed themselves.
Yes.
With the asps,
That's also a thing where her servants or whatever, there's the implication that Cleopatra is almost like this cult of personality. Like her servants are like, well, I cannot live without my queen. So
I mean, they live for her, yeah.
Well, I mean, that would have been normal, actually.
I get that would have been normal. I just feel like in a narrative structure of a movie made in 1963, I'm like, I need some motivation. I need her to be like a little more, I don't know, big, I guess.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree with that, but I think that it made sense that like her servants died with her. Actually, I mean, and you guys know, like obviously when monarchs of ancient Egypt died, they would be buried with like
their people.
All of their servants, all of the handmaidens, whatever. Like that was customary. Yeah. I was actually surprised there weren't more people in there dead with her. But yes, again, she didn't have that power, that, you know, that charm, that magnetism, right?
And then, you know, just to add insult to injury, you know, Alexandria has an earthquake, and then Alexandria sinks beneath the sea, and she is lost to time, Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Or was she? Because they might be on the road to finding both of them.
Oh, really?
About 25 miles away from Alexandria, they think that there was a secret tomb where the two of them are buried. There's an archaeologist named Kathleen Martinez, who's been digging at that site for 14 years. And they have just found a tomb, and they're currently in the process of taking water from the sea out of there. So they might be buried beneath there.
That is like so profound.
That's a love story.
Yeah, they found, you know, this place. They went through it. There were statues of Cleopatra and Mark Antony in embraces. They found coins of Cleopatra. I think they found over 200 coins of her face.
Really
and I'm
cool.
just like, so she might not be lost to time. Maybe we have her again.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought we found her like hundreds of years ago.
Oh no! It's surprising when you go and you watch some of these documentaries about Egypt, and they're like, really, they haven't found like Nefertiti. Nefertiti's still lost to time.
I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense, because for tombs of people where it's like, man, that was an emperor, that was a pharaoh. There's literally millions of dollars of shit in there. Boys grab the shovels.
They were looted, yeah.
They were
a lot
looted,
of them were.
The bodies were like, you know, just kind of discarded. So, you know, over years they've been buried with, you know, sand and rocks and everything. So it's like...
Well, the other thing is you probably would eventually, the Egyptian people would have discovered, let's just hide the tombs and make it harder for people to grave rob our pharaohs and our gods anointed unto us by Ra. Let's do that. So that's probably why some of them are just lost to time is, I don't know, it's like 40 miles out in the desert, that general direction, under about 18 feet of sand. That's probably where Nefertiti's buried or something.
Yeah. So they might be found. The two, great lovers of history.
But Mark Antony was just a rebound.
He was, and he found a sword.
I didn't feel that way.
Okay,
she loved Caesar.
Did she love Caesar more than Mark Antony?
It's a good question.
She's like, she loved Antony first, but she was like, but Caesar though.
No, she was like, man, Mark Antony kind of fine, but Caesar, God damn, Caesar, shit.
He got the brains.
See,
you got that
another...
drip. I know you like double my age, but God
the
damn.
More than double her age, because I think at the time, I think that the action of this film starts around 48 BC, because
something like that.
Yeah.
It's like 44 or 48.
No, it's 48 because you see the burning of the library at Alexandria, which would be 48 BC. So I think this starts, I think in the fall of 48 BC.
Okay.
Or like a little earlier than that. But she would have been like, if Cleopatra, they think that she was born like 70 or 69 BC, she would have been like 22 years old. So Caesar's old.
Well,
is what I'm trying to say.
Caesar died when he was like in his 50s, I think, or his 40s.
Yeah, so he's more than twice her age.
At least that was not a problematic relationship. She was 22, he was a little older, but nothing weird there, guys.
Nothing weird. She's not a child. It is a good question. I don't think we have enough information, like, historically to even know really about the complexities of her relationships with these two men.
I mean, do we even know the complexities of Liz Taylor's relationship with men?
No, we don't. Well, kind of.
There was like 8 husbands. Well, no, 7 husbands, 8 marriages. That's the number.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like in the film there was an emphasis that she had a lot of profound respect for Caesar because of his power and the way he asserted it. But I felt like there was more genuine romance between her and Antony, and I think that they did accentuate that. Like, I mean, we didn't see, like, there was a scene where she's laying on his chest, I think, after they've made love. And they're talking to each other. We didn't see that kind of intimacy with her and Caesar.
I mean, we saw their kid.
Yeah, weird too, because she had 3 children with Mark Antony.
Yeah.
And they didn't show it. I don't know why.
Oh, that's not a... Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they had 3 children.
Yeah.
Octavian took them after the suicides. And the twins were murdered.
The boys.
Well,
so, yeah, that's what I read, that the girl, also named Cleopatra, her daughter, was, like, put under the care... I think all 3 children were put under the care of Octavia.
Octavia, but the twins were... Or
they mysteriously disappeared.
Yeah, no one ever saw the boys ever
obviously.
again.
It's the thing when rulers take over, they make sure to kill the male line, because that's like, if somebody's going to rally, they're going to rally behind the male heir. They
used Cleopatra for a convenient political marriage to a ruler in Africa. Yeah, I mean, that's the only... I mean, yeah, they kept her for a reason, because she was a girl. But there was something else I was going to mention about this whole...
Yeah, because it's very whirlwind where it's like, they had time together and they had children together.
And in the movie, it feels like their entire relationship is over the course of 6 months.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But actually, she had a much longer relationship with Antony. It was like 8 years or something, whereas with Caesar, she was only with him for 3. Didn't even see him for most of it because he was in Rome.
He was conquering the world.
Yeah.
Casually.
Yeah. Caesar, come home, see me. He's like, I'm literally conquering the known world. Can you give me 2 weeks,
You're so
please?
clingy.
I'll be back in Egypt after I've conquered most of Asia.
Stop calling me.
Jesus Christ, lady.
Did anybody else miss the moment? Apparently, like, there is a moment in the film when Octavian comes into Egypt with Caesarion dead in a wagon. I didn't see that.
We see him in the wagon, but I don't know if he's dead.
Okay, because historically, like, he was dead. But I don't know, like, I don't know if I missed it or whatever. I was like, I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, they show him in the wagon. It's just, I wasn't sure if he was dead,
And he's been
alive,
captured.
he's been knocked out. But yeah,
because when Octavian goes to Cleopatra and she swears on her son's life that she won't harm herself, there was she's supposed to have the knowledge that her son is dead.
Because he says that he has her son. So I think she's like, oh, okay, you have my son. Obviously, he's dead. So.
Oh, he does say that.
Yeah.
Okay, I completely missed that.
It's 4 hours. It's okay to miss a few minutes. It's fine. It is a thing where it's like the actual history is more interesting than the movie.
That's why I said I had to go and watch different things just to learn about these people and what they really encountered versus the briefness that we got to see in this movie.
The briefness at 4 hours.
For 4 hours is brief.
Well, I guess that's the thing. It's like if you go into the movie knowing the history, there's something there for you. But if you go in not knowing anything, it does fall flat, doesn't it? I mean, you're like...
Yeah, like, I know the vagueness, the vague idea of, like, also, like, the Cleopatra, Julius Caesar relationship. Okay, I get that. But, like, actually watching it and see it all play out, and I'm like, for God's sakes, we've been talking for 45 unbroken minutes about the weird political structure of Greece. Where the fuck is the battles? Where's the horses? Where is the stuff that I'm paying my ticket price?
Dean's all about the patriarchy and the horses.
It's all semi-naked Liz Taylor.
Okay, sure.
Sex sells.
It does sell, and I'm like, oh man, it's a thing where if I'm going to the movies in 1963 and I'm putting, because this was an expensive movie to go see, because ticket prices for this I think were like $5 or $6, which were expensive back then. Again, it'd be like $50 to go see it now, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, if I'm paying however much to go, with me and my best gal, and we're gonna watch this movie, and I'm like, where is the shit I paid for? I know it looks big, I know it looks cool. Where's the battles? At least Spartacus, that movie's long, but there's battles and shit. Ben-Hur, the fucking like chariot sequence, I'm like, okay, that's gonna be burned in my mind forever. This, I'm like, I guess it's neat.
We get the parade.
Interested. Yeah,
we get a parade. We get 65 outfit changes.
I guess the parade is cool. Little interesting, but cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I'm like, I can see all the money put on screen, but it's like you couldn't have saved some of that for something with a little bit more bombast. I guess I don't know. I feel like it's just structured very
It's messy.
It's messy. Yeah. It's messy. It's almost structured like a TV show in a weird way. Mm-hmm.
I will say, like I said, I watched the first 20 minutes again, and I was getting more from the film. So I feel like even though it is like structurally messy, there is something there. Like there is a cyclical nature to the film. There are little aspects that you realize on a second viewing are there. Like there's like moments of dramatic irony or whatever. Like when Caesar decides that he's going to go to Egypt rather than straight back to Rome after his victory over Pompey. And then he says, like, Mark Antony, his word is as good as mine. Like, I mean, you don't...
Literally, right? Like, I'm going to say Mark Antony is on my level.
On my level, yeah. And then you don't realize on a first watch that unless you know the history, okay, that he's going to literally replace him as like Cleopatra's lover. But anyways.
And Mark Antony's going to have that anxiety of, I'm not even as good as Caesar.
I'm always living under his shadow.
And Caesar's like, I'm always living under the shadow of Alexander. It is an interesting thing of all these like great men are like, I'm living under the shadow of an even greater man that came before me. Yeah. And then Cleopatra's like, I live under no man's shadow.
Well,
just under their sheets. That should have been a line in this movie. Just make it a comedy.
That would have been okay. Wait, did anybody laugh at that line where Cleopatra? It's before she goes to her tomb and she's talking to her servant Apollodorus, and he says like, by the way, like, I've always loved you. And she's like, I have always known.
Yeah.
I cracked up so hard. And I'm like, I don't know if this is supposed to be serious or if this is the ultimate, like, friend zone moment where she's like, yeah, Apollodorus, you think, like, I've seen you checking me out.
And then he kills himself and dies on her bed. It's just ultimate, like.
The greatest comedy moment if he said, okay, here's something where it would have been funny, but fucking pathos, right? God, I wish I was a screenwriter back in 1963, was Apollodorus is like, I have always loved you. She should have looked and be like, all men do, and then just walk off. And I'm like, oh, that's
silent moment.
That silent moment. And he's like, well, wait, but where's my Snooki? No.
Jersey Shore?
I don't know.
I thought it was just.
No, it was perfect that way. Where she was just like, yeah, I've known.
Yeah.
Scene cuts.
Off to die. Bye.
It's the Star Wars thing. It's like, I love you. I know.
Exactly. It's cool.
Also, like, Antony comes in, okay, after being humiliated. He's like, where's Cleopatra? Apollodorus lies to him and is like, she's in her tomb, right? Like, so he's assuming that she's dead. Stabs himself. And then Apollodorus is like,
bruh, she's alive in the tomb waiting for you.
Apollodorus would be like, I should let me finish my I was halfway through a bagel.
What?
Like, I'm sorry.
What was that though? Because like
he's like, I watched you impale yourself,
but like I wish that there was a moment, right? It became comic because like 2 seconds later he's just like, oh JK, like actually I lied to you.
Also,
but,
Mark
like,
Antony stabbed himself and it's taken him like 10. He's like, I'm dying. Let me give my monologue real quick. It'll be like 10 minutes.
But can you carry me to the tomb?
Come on. Can you be a bro, dog? I know I should have stabbed myself over there. Didn't think this all the way through.
I didn't finish reading absurd. Romeo and Juliet yet.
No, but like, couldn't there have been a moment? Couldn't there have just been like 5 seconds where we like, you know, it like shows Apollodorus and his like expression changes. You know, there's like just something to make it not so ridiculous, right? Where like something flashes across his eyes and he's like, wait, oh, like he's had some kind of realization. But no, instead we get like knee slapping comedy.
Three Stooges.
Like, yeah, it was just so ill timed too. It's like the film is ending, people are dying. What the heck is happening? I don't know. Then he like, you know.
Yeah, the pulley system to get him up to the tomb.
I thought that was actively ridiculous. I'm like, look,
and you've got her servants on the inside that are trying to pull him into.
Two small women, just like, yeah.
And Cleopatra. Everyone's pulling
dragging him in.
So ridiculous. I'm like, I get it. Oh, the tomb, the rise, you gotta do the pull. No, okay, for God's sakes, it's a fucking movie. Have them walk through a door. This looks ridiculous.
It was absurd.
This Rube Goldberg strategy of like, we need to get her into the tomb. All right, so let's get the grappling hook. Yeah, okay.
It's probably accurate, but it's ridiculous, like you're saying.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I understand historical accuracy, you know, we need to make it look, you know, oh, we spent all this money. I'm like, have him walk through the fucking door, guy.
Walk up some steps.
It's gonna look way better. It's gonna be way easier. If we won't have the thing in 70 years of some asshole on a microphone saying, man, that looks ridiculous. They didn't have the forethought. They weren't prepared. But yeah, Cleopatra. So any final thoughts on Cleopatra?
I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Same. I liked it, but like I said, so much untapped potential in this film.
I ended up giving this on Letterboxd a 3 out of 5, a straight down the middle thing. Had moments that I was like, this is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Had moments where I'm like, this is boring. And overall, I'm like, it's such a experience of a movie for me. And I'm like, I can't say I really liked it. I can't say I hated it. It's just 4 hours of my life I won't get back. So, you know.
You've watched far worse.
I've watched far worse and far longer, but I got a little more out of both of them. At least I had an emotional reaction. At least I hated something.
Doubts. But this was the epic that killed a studio.
Yes.
And killed the epics.
It did. This movie basically showed Hollywood that we can't keep pumping money into epics and expecting immediate savior from the audiences. But next week, we're talking about an epic that actually could be considered the greatest of all epics to have ever epicked.
It is pretty epic. We're talking about Lawrence of Arabia.
It's going to be a big one. It's actually shorter than Cleopatra.
It is.
Significantly better.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one is directed by David Lean, stars Peter O'Toole. It's
Omar Sharif,
Alec Guinness. It is, Obi-Wan himself.
Yes, Obi-Wan is in it.
He's in brownface, but whatever, we'll get to that. But
oh my gosh.
With brother of the podcast, so it's gonna be you guys are gonna talk about that for a while.
Yeah, you're gonna talk about it too. Have you've seen Lawrence of Arabia before?
Of course I have.
Okay, but when was the last time you watched Lawrence of Arabia?
How dare you?
Like a few years ago.
All right. She says that now. We get to the episode, and she's like, "I have never seen this movie. I'm sorry. I watched the Mummy back to back, and I thought that was Lawrence of Arabia. My bad.
We really want to be throwing stones here.
I love you, but yeah.
I just realized you have hieroglyphs on your shirt.
Oh yeah, I came prepared.
That is amazing.
She usually dresses up for the episodes if she can.
I do.
I love it. Okay, we were intending to record this last week.
Yeah,
and
I messed it up.
No worries. I just realized, I was like, did they want me to record this on March 16th because it was the day after the Ides of March?
No, it just worked out that way.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah, we plan these ahead.
Like, they totally plan it. They plan it. They know. The stars are aligned. Ancient calendars and...
But when this episode comes out, it actually comes out the day after our anniversary.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
I'm gonna go fell the Roman Empire and
fall on your steak knife.
Fall on my steaks knife. It's gonna suck.
I hope that you're not as ill-fated, Dean.
Me too.
And same for you, Becky.
Too.
Don't kill yourself.
I'll try not to.
You gotta put that right at the top of the bar there. But yeah, so really excited for next week. It's going to be fun. But if you wanted to listen to that episode, where can they go?
If you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Yep,
you can go to our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That is The Film Vault on YouTube, where I upload kind of sort of video versions of this podcast. And I'm going to be releasing a lot of them very soon, so we can just catch up already. But if you wanted to follow us on social media, you can go to
Instagram at the Film Club Podcast, where we post daily stories, upcoming episodes, and random adventures we go on.
And if you want to follow our guest, where can they go?
Follow me. If you want copywriting for your business, you can go to my website, which is yasminpoirier.com. YASMIN. I can't spell my own name. POIRIER.com.
And with that,
we'll see you next week at the Film Club.
Have a good week, everybody.
Don't die.